Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful, Rabbit Hole, King Deal, Lauren Frey, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. Here we are with a retrospective, a look back at the shifting narrative the Steam Deck has had since it was first unveiled sometime last year, was it? Currently, at the moment, the Steam Deck has failed. It failed to live up to its promises. The fanboys are running wild and trying to do damage control. So I thought it would be nice to go back, watch some older Steam Deck videos, and compare them to the narrative that's being pushed around now. Currently, the narrative is that Steam Deck was never meant to compete with consoles, that it's its own niche thing, and that selling under 1 million units is perfectly normal for a PC tablet like it. But back then, back when this thing was first unveiled, the narrative was that the Steam Deck would eliminate consoles entirely, particularly the Switch. And it's kind of funny looking back on this and seeing the shift in narrative. And I thought, like, yeah, let's take a look at this random Steam Deck video and see what this random person has to say.
You may have seen the title of this video and think I'm some Valve fanboy who's going to explain how the Steam Deck will single-handedly kill the Switch or the PlayStation. Well, no, at least for the time being, that is actually impossible. Valve simply doesn't have the ability to manufacture enough Steam Decks to kill any traditional console.
Again, this is something we've been seeing a lot lately is among Valve drones is this idea that, like, oh, Valve simply can't produce enough Steam Decks. If they could produce more of them would be sold, and we would move on to a glorious Steam Deck future. But in reality, no one's buying. Like, that's the thing. Like, the reason Valve produced so few Steam Decks, like, what was it, like 300,000 of them? The reason why so few were produced was because there really was no demand for them. Like, Valve fanboys simply can't wrap their heads around simple economics. If there is no demand, it doesn't matter how many you produce. In fact, that would be detrimental to your business.
No matter how high the demand for them are, Valve would have to produce tens of millions of these a year for that to happen. Valve is currently producing them in the range of a few 100,000 in a year, and they would need to increase production by a factor of 100 to even stand a chance. However, I still stand by my belief that the Steam Deck is part of what may be the end of traditional consoles as we know it.
Oh no!
There's no secret that over the years, consoles have slowly become more and more like PCs. The day where you just put a disc into your brand new system and play is long gone.
So this motherfucker, oh man, the Steam Deck, it's gonna be the beginning of the end of the console industry. No one's gonna want to own a console when the Steam Deck comes out. Like, really, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, the argument that the Steam Deck is going to put an end to consoles because it's more like a PC. In reality, the Steam Deck is a PC that's more like a console with like a pre-structured like build at like a relatively affordable price that is exclusively designed for gaming. It essentially is a console, like not a gaming PC. And like Valve fanboys just try to spin this into meaning that like try and spin this to mean that that consoles are on the way out, when really Steam Deck isn't really even making a dent in the console space. It's ridiculous, as he just admitted in this video. Actually, like, oh, it's not happening now, but in the long run, it's gonna kill the Switch. Like, Nintendo will simply release a new platform.
Have made that a thing of the past. On top of that, consoles now come with complex operating systems and a multitude of non-gaming applications, even web browsers. So given how much the line has blurred, what makes, say, the PS5 a gaming console and the Steam Deck a PC? Well, openness. Despite its form factor, you can easily install whatever piece of software you want onto it. even a different operating system or a competing store.
If you have to watch a tutorial video how to download how to download programs onto your Steam Deck, it's not easy to do. You know what I mean? Consoles will always have a demographic of people who just want to play video games, right? He tries to say that consoles have more applications and are more complex to use these days, but they're still infinitely more accessible and cost effective than a gaming PC. Like significantly so. The gaming PC I'm getting is um, something like 5 times more expensive than a console. I would say it's it's ridiculous how much these people will try to argue that PC the PC market will ever significantly impact the console sphere.
Considering Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft basically have a monopoly in deciding what software you
A monopoly.
can install,
Wait,
plus requiring you
wait a minute.
to pay for
They're
that
divided between
software
3
means that
companies. Like I would argue Nintendo has a monopoly over actual video games, but like Sony, Nintendo, like by definition, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo cannot have a monopoly over the gaming sphere because they're 3 different companies. That doesn't even make any sense. So, do they not know? I mean, I never accuse Steam Deck fanboys of being smart, but what is he talking about?
you won't ever see someone like Sony or Nintendo make something like the Steam Deck. Microsoft is a different story, but we will get into that later.
I mean, the Switch is already. The Steam Deck is basically just a carbon copy of the Switch. I don't know why PC fanboys or Valve fanboys are so in denial about that fact. You know what I mean?
For people who are less educated on tech, you might not understand why so many people are freaking out about the Steam Deck. What makes it different
Nobody's
from your average
freaking out
gaming
about the
laptop, the failed Steam machines from a few years ago, or even the Chinese tablet gaming devices that were released last year? Why is the Steam Deck suddenly a threat when all those weren't? Well, for a few reasons, but the biggest one being that the Steam Deck is cheap.
Hang on. The real reason is because Valve made it. Like, it's just Valve fanboys freaking the fuck out. And look at this. This is cheap. Are you serious? $400? No, fuck off. That's way too overpriced. And that's for like the basic
cheap.
model.
Unlike other hardware manufacturers that sell their products at a premium to gain a profit, Valve is certainly losing money on the Steam Deck. You can't find a portable gaming device with the same performance to price ratio the Steam Deck is boasting. Not for $650, the price of their most expensive device, and definitely not for $400, their cheapest model. The reason PC gaming has always been more expensive than console gaming, at least for the initial investment, was due to this price difference. However, thanks to Valve being willing to take a loss on these things, assuming they would make the money back through Steam game purchases, we have a device that for $400 is only $100 more than the base Switch, yet is around 5 times more powerful and has twice as much memory. I don't think there has ever been a case where a pre-built computer was able to beat a popular console like this in the realm of price to performance. And sure, $400 puts the Steam Deck in the same price point as the PS5, which it definitely isn't as powerful as.
Oh no! Cocked by the PS5. Oh no. Anyway, yeah, I've been saying this forever in regards to when it comes to like these power arguments. Power does not mean anything in the current these days. Everything that gets made can easily run on a Nintendo Switch. Like it doesn't matter if the Steam Deck is technically more powerful. It's just a waste of it's just a waste of power. You know, like you're not ever going to use all of that. All of its tech. Like it's better to just put your effort and time into making good video games, and Valve never does that. Like most of these hardware companies, other than Nintendo, never actually develop any games that take full advantage of their hardware. So as a result, the power argument just falls flat on its face because the best games will always be Nintendo exclusive.
In the past, previous generations simply couldn't run the games from contemporary generations. It wasn't just a graphical thing. Map designs, physics, AI, number of enemies on screen, and other fancy additions meant that oftentimes newer generations showed us things that simply couldn't be possible before. But that isn't really true for the current generation.
Yeah, even
Most of the graphical gains of this gen came from resolution and optional features like ray tracing. Maybe it's just me, but I literally can't tell the difference between Spider-Man PS4 and Spider-Man on PS5.
Oh no!
I spent minutes just looking at them side by side and can't see a noticeable difference. What this means is that, no, Steam Deck games aren't going to look nearly as good as next-gen console games. But thanks to portable chips catching up in price and performance to non-portable hardware over the last few years, the Steam Deck should be able to play every game that releases this generation.
Wrong. Valve has already. There are a number of games that aren't available for Steam Deck. I haven't bothered looking at what they are because they're really irrelevant. But the long and short of it is, this narrative that the Steam Deck would be able to play everything on Steam is simply not true. I know, like, I know you already had to jump through hoops to get to play Destiny 2, for example. Because the developers are concerned about people cheating on Steam Deck. And I'm sure there are other examples. I believe you can't play Mortal Kombat 11 on it. There are a lot of exceptions to this rule already, and that's only to start with.
Things, and at a far lower resolution. This is a big deal because nearly all PS5 games and all Xbox Series S and X games are cross-platform on PC. This is something that was simply not possible until very recently. I love my Switch, but it was a miracle they got Doom Eternal running on it.
No, it wasn't.
It is
No, it
sadly
wasn't.
going to miss out on a lot of cross-gen PS5 to Xbox multiplats, but not the Steam Deck. Okay, so far it sounds like I have been praising the Steam Deck. After all, I never held one, and so for all we know, it could have major hardware issues.
It
might
does.
have its own form of Joy-Con drift, or maybe its
Yep.
memory limitations
Already confirmed to
become
have
a deal
Joy-Con
breaker.
drift.
And besides, like I said, Valve can't make enough Steam Decks to compete with consoles anyway, so why does it matter? Well, the thing is, I don't think the first wave of Steam Decks will kill consoles. However, I do think something like the Steam Deck eventually might. Valve opened the floodgate. Within only an hour, the Steam
No. Bro, like, the Steam Deck is imitating the Switch. All Nintendo is going to do is release a new platform and, like, counter whatever the Steam... Like, what company is going to come out of nowhere and make a better Steam Deck? It doesn't make any sense. Like, you even admit in this video that the only reason Valve is able to release this thing at such a low price point is because Valve believes that they'll make the money back through Steam sales. Like, because of their monopoly over this over PC gaming as a whole, because of the Steam store. Like, there's no viable way for competitors to release a platform like this and expect to make a profit on it. Like, they can't keep costs down, and they can't get people to buy games on it. Like, it's impossible to do.
Steam Deck received around 150,000 pre-orders. Probably more Steam Decks were pre-ordered in a day than the number Valve can produce in a year.
150,000. Like, the Virtual Boy sold something like 770,000 in its in the 3 months it was on market. Right, like, forget the Wii U, right? Like, that's what I'm seeing people say now, that, like, oh yeah, Valve Steam Deck is going to sell less than Wii U. That is true, obviously, but what people don't realize is that Valve Steam Deck seems to be on track to selling less than Nintendo's Virtual Boy. It's gone a bit further than that, just a tad bit. It's on track to doing worse than Nintendo's worst performing console ever. Right, something that sold less than 1 million units. And I don't know why people like this are spinning it as meaning that, like, Valve is going to someday be successful. I told you immediately when this thing unveiled that this would be a simple repeat of every time Valve releases a new piece of hardware, whether it's like the VR headset or the Steam machine or the Steam controller or anything really. Valve has a long history of releasing technology, of releasing new hardware, and then never supporting it. Like, oh man, the Steam Deck may have problems now, but the future Steam Deck will be hugely successful. No! We know that Valve is not going to support it in any meaningful capacity after launch. They have a history of doing this. And people like this refuse to acknowledge it as real historical fact, as a real precedent of what's going to happen in the future. Valve will not support the Steam Deck. They will not release a Steam Deck 2, and they will never be able to topple the console industry as a result of it.
Most consoles can't get this many pre-orders in only an hour. With Steam Deck now setting a new price point for these types of devices,
Bullshit.
Every other company in the portable gaming space will have to compete to stay relevant.
Oh no.
I don't think most companies can, however. Like I said, Valve is selling these at a loss. Most other companies have no incentive to do so, since their profits would have to come from hardware sales. However, there are a few companies that I can see being able to join in. Microsoft is probably scared of the Steam Deck, actually. Microsoft makes most of its money from Windows, and as history has shown, their portable hardware devices have never really done very well. The Steam Deck and Valve's pushes into Linux probably scares Microsoft, because the last thing they
Microsoft
want
is
an
scared
open
of the
free
Steam Deck.
alternative to Windows to gain popularity. This makes me wonder if Microsoft will support the Steam Deck. Microsoft wants to put their Game Pass on every device possible, and Game Pass portably would do wonders for the service. Yes, Microsoft is allowing for cloud streaming, but let's be honest, the vast majority of people can't use their phone's 5G for something like that. Besides the immense lag, they would run out of data within minutes. True next-gen levels of gaming on the go for the time being require onboard hardware. The most logical thing for Microsoft to do is compete with the Steam Deck, which ironically is something Valve themselves said they would want. They are open that they want to encourage other companies to make their own versions, because hey, if mobile PC gaming grows, as the #1 PC game distributor, they can only grow from this. It doesn't matter to them who is making the Steam Deck-like devices. Most people don't know this, but Gabe did something.
So like these motherfuckers, they're seriously saying that it doesn't matter whether the Steam Deck is successful because Valve has such a stake in the PC market. They literally own Steam, the only thing keeping PC gaming relevant in any way, shape, or form, that it doesn't matter if the Steam Deck fails because Valve wins anyway because there's going to be successful copycats. Bro, it's not going to topple the Switch. Are any of these handheld gaming PCs going to replace what Nintendo is doing? And the answer is simply no. Microsoft is irrelevant. Sony is irrelevant. They don't even have handheld gaming platforms right now. Valve's main competition for the Steam Deck is the Switch. And nothing you've said will affect the Switch in any meaningful capacity.
Gabe did something similar with VR. While Gabe and Valve never bought Oculus, Gabe personally funded the Kickstarter for the original Oculus with a big donation. He also worked with Oculus devs in the early days and helped push agnostic research that would help grow VR in general.
VR is a failure.
Gabe, Oculus may have
Look at the
never been
metaverse.
bought by Facebook to begin with, meaning Gabe literally funded his biggest rival in the VR space and did so because the growth of VR helps Steam either way. The same logic applies to portable gaming.
I may be wrong about this because I don't own a VR headset and I never will. But doesn't Oculus have its own store? How exactly would Oculus existing help Steam Deck, help the Vive VR? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't even make any sense in context with his previous argument.
Devices. Microsoft having a mobile version of Windows makes sense for a device like this. In fact, I'm semi-surprised the Steam Deck isn't running a free stripped-down version of Windows on it. Microsoft makes its money from Windows, but the vast majority of that money comes from business licenses, or people buying Microsoft software for Windows. This is why pirating Windows has actually been so extremely easy the last few years, because they don't really lose money as long as you still need a business license to use it for work. By putting a mobile-friendly version of Windows, either on the Steam Deck itself or on a Steam Deck competitor, they can push Windows into new spaces and bring Game Pass along with it. Everything I just said sounds like conjecture, and it kind of is.
Yeah.
But while writing this script, I found out that the AMD chipset that is in the Steam Deck was rumored to have been originally designed specifically for a Microsoft portable Game Pass-enabled device, which Microsoft canceled sometime in 2020. If that is true, they are almost certainly trying to bring that project back up, given the huge reception of the Steam Deck. I recently talked about how PC gaming has shown explosive growth in places like Japan.
Wait!
Sony once had in the...
Oh no! This is a niche gamer contributor? Oh no. That explains why you're so out of touch, why you're so retarded, and why you don't seem to know anything about video games. Get a real job, you bum.
area, but I also stated how PC gaming faces major issues in Japan, ranging from portability to price. Well, the Steam Deck actually helps solve many of those issues. While the Steam Deck isn't available to purchase in Japan as of now, the response online for it in Asia has been huge, and I am certain that something like this would really help the already growing PC market in Japan. However, I think the country you will see this really explode in is China, who have already produced many Steam Deck-like devices, though for far greater prices. Yeah, the Steam Deck kind of makes the recently released GPD3 obsolete, but the fact that these things already existed in China really shows how well something like the Steam Deck will do there. The two most popular forms of gaming in China are mobile gaming and PC gaming. These devices combine them together. While I said I think Microsoft will make a device like this, I don't think Sony or Nintendo will. It's no secret that Microsoft has been slowly shifting their gaming focus away from the Xbox. If Microsoft is smart, they will use the power of the Xbox brand with their Steam Deck-like device. After all, the Xbox Series S, while not portable, is a powerful next-gen ready device made for scalable gaming in a small form factor. Unlike Valve, who is new to the hardware space, Microsoft, being a literal trillion-dollar company and having sway in the manufacturing industry, could pump their version of these by the tens of millions if they really wanted to. Even with our current chip drought, they have shown that they can at least get over 5 million Xbox Series S and X's made. It is ironic, but the company that famously never made a handheld console in 10 years might dominate the handheld market if they play their cards right.
No, Microsoft is incapable of playing their cards right. They don't know anything about gaming. They can't read the market. They don't have the talent to pull something like that off. Like, we've seen them squander golden opportunities time and time and time again. Like, there's really nothing they can do to stay relevant. Like, at this point, the only thing really... the only reason that anyone still supports them is blind fanboyism or being a literal shill, like in the case of Angry Joe. Like, there is no reason to support Microsoft in 2022. None.
Microsoft, maybe traditional phone companies might jump into the space. Sure, they don't know anything about video games.
Is he arguing that, like, are we going to see the return of the Nokia gaming platform? What? Yeah, because that worked so well last time, right?
Cheap and subsidized portable devices. These devices are tablets after all. Maybe they can convince normal people to pay them every month for a data plan or something. Not sure. Sony and Nintendo, though, don't have any incentive to go this route. Nintendo sells their consoles at a profit, not a loss, and Sony makes the majority of its money on online subscriptions and revenue from third-party companies who want to sell their games on the PlayStation. Both forms of revenue would be lost by having a more open platform. One symptom of the Steam Deck I could see, ironically, is causing Sony to port less games to PC. Sony has been recently porting their PlayStation games to Steam because they don't see PC gaming as competing with the console space. The Steam Deck and systems like it combine all of the advantages of a console, cheap price, easy to use, and small form factor, with all the advantages of a PC, being openness. If Sony sees this as a threat, they will likely try to slow down its growth any way they can. Though, despite the many comparisons people have made towards the Switch, I don't think Nintendo should be too scared of the Steam Deck in the immediate future. While a huge share of people buy the Switch thanks to its form factor, I mean, after all, the Wii U is basically the Switch, just less portable, and see how well that did, Nintendo can still rely on its exclusives and, honestly, cult-like fanbase to keep Nintendo consoles going for a few more years. Same with Sony, assuming they keep their exclusives on their PlayStation. In the immediate future, I expect gaming laptops to see a big loss in sales. Companies like Dell and their Alienware subdivision have been selling gaming laptops at a premium for years. But let's be honest, they have always been overpriced, and gaming laptops don't actually have the best form factor for gaming. Having a laptop on, well, your lap isn't very comfortable when it's burning a hole in your leg trying to run a modern game. The Steam Deck is objectively a better gaming device for the price if your main goal of a gaming laptop is gaming on the go rather than doing work. In the long term, I'm curious to see how
I remember when these people were trying to say that like gaming laptops would be a better investment than the Switch because of like, oh man, you can run Steam games on it. Yeah. It's delusional. Just delusionally these people are just delusional when you get right down to it when it comes to like what the Steam Deck is going to result in. Like, this motherfucker will admit that, like, yeah, the Steam Deck isn't going to kill the Switch. Yeah, it's not going to do this. It's not going to do that. But it's still going to change the industry. No, it's not. It clearly isn't, in spite of what you've been trying to tell people all this time. Aside from a few hardcore Valve fanboys, drones, no one is talking positively about the Steam Deck at all.
Adapt to the competition the Steam Deck and similar products make for them. In the short term, they will be fine, but as production of similar products ramps up and as portable hardware continues to catch up, I'm not sure what they can do. Sony can make a new PlayStation Portable model, sure, but that won't have the open features, something like the Steam Deck has. Same for the Switch. Consumers will look at a new PSP or Switch and see that their game and hardware prices are inexcusable compared to a third-party handheld PC. I mean,
wait, what?
How much Sony...
Wait, what? The hardware for Switch is inexcusable. The Steam Deck is the most affordable tablet ever produced, right? Valve is selling it at a loss. Like, what? Who the fuck would look at both of those things? You know, $400 Steam Deck, $300 Switch, and then say that, like, oh man, the Switch is overpriced. Like, what are you talking about? You parasite.
Was charging for hard drive space for the Vita? I won't say both will go bankrupt because these are multi-billion-dollar companies. They will find some way to adapt, and I probably won't be able to predict exactly how that is, which makes me very curious. But whatever that may be, I don't think it will involve simply pushing a traditional console like we have seen for the last few decades. The biggest argument for why people get a console, its simplicity, simply doesn't work anymore, and so consoles have been required to rely on their price and first-party exclusives more and more, since third parties continue to try to put their games on as many devices as possible. I know console fanboys exist, and can't imagine not buying a new PlayStation or Nintendo-branded box, but the reality is that most people don't care which company produces the box that their games happen to play on. In conclusion, if Sony and Nintendo want to retain their gaming dominance into the next decade, they will have to adapt. I'm not exactly sure how, but they will have to. That is the threat these companies face now, and it all starts thanks to a tablet created by an ex-Microsoft employee who couldn't even count to 3. See ya.
Wow, that was really fucking retarded. Oh wow, that was really fucking stupid. I don't even know what to say. Like, oh man, Sony and Nintendo are going to have to adapt in order to compete. You know, like they have been over the over the past 30 years. Like, holy fucking shit. Well, Nintendo will adapt to compete. Sony won't do shit. Sony's on the way out, but it has nothing to do with the Steam Deck. It has everything to do with the lack of ability to compete with Nintendo in the new 20s, right? In the new decade. Like, that's why Sony is going to fail. It has nothing to do with the Steam Deck. It has everything to do with Nintendo and getting stopped by this company that they tried to put out of business. Unbelievable. This was This was really stupid. Let's see, I guess. This was stupid. Okay. What a joke. Let's see. Gabe's longtime dream to revolutionize the gaming industry by forcing major companies to create new technologies has finally come to reality. What the fuck? What is with this tendency among Valve fans to like idolize Gabe? The motherfucker won't even release Half-Life 3. Like, it's not going to happen. Let's see. Yeah, this isn't even a very popular video. But this gives you an idea of what Valve fanboys were trying to say last year in August. That, oh man, the Steam Deck, it's going to put Sony and Nintendo out of business. It's going to do this, it's going to do that. And then now that it's out, it hasn't impacted anything. What we're seeing now is Valve fanboys backtracking and saying that, like, oh, we never said that. Steam Deck was never going to be successful. It couldn't possibly compete, but it's still like the better platform or something. Once more Steam Decks get produced, manufactured, they're going to sell a bunch more. But that's not going to happen. Like, Steam Deck has already failed, and only a scant few fanboys bought into it, like 150,000. There aren't going to be new people coming in. There isn't going to be an explosion in interest. Most people are just going to stick with their established gaming PCs or consoles. Like, there simply is no reason to own a Valve Steam Deck.